Good morning. I thought I'd do a quick screencast to introduce us to our peer review. Sometimes we don't necessarily feel comfortable with having other people read our works, but one thing you need to understand is that there are often real-world applications to the things we have you do in academia. So for example, with peer review, if you are a scientist or someone who is going to try to publish to a journal, say, such as in Psychology Today, which is what Closet Cases was from, there are different stages that the article has to go through. And so first the author writes the article, submits it. There's an editor who then sends it to experts. Those expert reviewers return the manuscript to the editor and say, here's the changes I'd like to see, or we don't think that this is strong enough to publish, or we have issues with this or that, whatever. And then the editor reviews the suggestions, talks to the writer. If they decide to go ahead with it, the author revises the manuscript, resubmits it, and then the journal editor and the author work together, finally coming up with the particular version of it that will go into the journal. So it's the kind of process that you might find yourself going through on the job eventually. I know sometimes it feels like the monster is tearing you apart and that your work is no good, and I would like to just get this image out of your mind now and think about something else. So instead of thinking about a monster, think about the fact that you have people looking at your work. Now this can either be scary or it can be kind of safe, because then you have someone else looking at what you've done, giving you kudos and also giving you room for improvement. And also they're another pair of eyes, or should we say they're another eye on your work to help you see exactly how clearly you've written something. So we deal with student feedback, right? In this class, student feedback should be honest and objective. It should be positive in places. It also should have need to improve sections in it. Sometimes you can also ask questions of the author and maybe get some clarification. So you can see how each one of these would help. This will give you some kudos to make you feel good and to see where your writing is clear. This will show you where you need to improve it. And it could be anything from, needing more examples to the way it's organized. And then this part down here lets you see, is there more I need to add to this that would help my work be stronger for the reader? So far we've had discussions as kind of like mini peer reviews. That's what I think of our discussion as. And here are some of the things that I'm looking at. I think more of you need to get beyond the I like or I agree statements. And I've written that in some of the feedback. So definitely show a strength, at least one, from the writer. And then you identify the rooms for improvement, but make sure you give examples. Here's an example of one student writing about the strength. This is from Elise Pede. She says, I too agree with the author's decision to end the article with a solution to the hoarding problem. You have explained this well and also added how the author discussed the importance of being able to overcome the issue gradually. You support your point by sharing the idea that approaching the issue slowly may help hoarders with mental issues not be overwhelmed by the task at hand. So not only does she say, I agree with what you said about the author, but she talks about how the student writer used specific strategies to be clear. Now here's an example of a need for improvement. This one comes from Mary. I think that your use of quotation should be limited more. mainly for phrases taken directly from the text. Reading through them, I was often confused about why you chose to use quotations in the context that you did. So she's not saying to this author, don't use quotations. She's just saying you need to be more purposeful in using your quotations. A good criticism, and one that will help with clarity. Now, when we go into the peer review for the response, in this particular summary and response rough draft, I do want you to remember that I want you to concentrate on the response part of this rough draft rather than the summary. I think that the students will all benefit more if we concentrate on that. So first of all, I want to point out that you do not receive credit if all you do is post your rough draft. This is a place where you need to be very tuned in to helping one another. So post that rough draft, but don't just stop there. Now, follow the questions in the prompt. I'm not going to go through them here because you can look at the discussion page itself. Follow those questions. Make sure you hit every point. Be sure to find at least one strength and one area of improvement. And finally, there is no need for you to edit for grammar or punctuation. I often have students asking me, well, should I not? I think you could comment on word choice a little bit, and you could also comment if the grammar and punctuation is impeding your understanding. You could comment on that and just tell the student that in general they need to work on writing more clearly and paying more attention to editing for this. But you don't have to go through and point out the errors and edit for that. Okay, so let's go into this peer review time now with a real positive attitude and an eye for how can I really help the paper that I'm reading be stronger.